Hi, I'm Caitlin.
Hi, I'm Rebecca.
We're not from Memphis, but we love it.
Welcome to Memphis Type History, the podcast. Welcome to Memphis Type History, the podcast. Whether you're an Elvis fan or not, or whether you visited Graceland or not, there is no doubt that you would be entertained by the Elvis movie summaries given by today's guests, Savannah Faircloth and Sheena Barnett, on their podcast episode series called Starring Elvis, which you can find at graceland.com/connect/podcast.aspx.
Yeah. We're also on Spotify and iTunes and all of that good stuff too. So.
And Podbean.
Yeah. Yeah, Podbean.
I just thought, I felt like I should give the initial source because it came from Graceland.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But more easily, yes, you can find those at Spotify, Podbean, or iTunes.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you. We've asked them to join us today to talk a little bit about what their podcast is about and share their thoughts about Elvis's film career. Welcome, Sheena and Savannah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We're excited to be here.
Super. Well, I'm excited to have you. I learned about you guys because of Twitter. And as you may or may not know, I am an Elvis fan. So we've got 3 Elvis fans in the room right here.
Well, this is good.
Yes. So to start us off, I'd like to know what kind of is the overview of your roles at Graceland.
Okay. Well, go ahead, Sheena.
Okay. I'm Sheena, so y'all can tell voices apart. Technically, my job is web content specialist, but that probably goes over your head like it goes over mine. Basically, I do all of the online work for Graceland, whether it is running the website, writing news articles, writing the blog posts for the Graceland blog. I do all the social media. I'm on Elvis Radio, a bunch of things like that, and now the Starring Elvis Presley podcast.
Right. And my name is Savannah Faircloth, and I basically have nothing to do with podcast. I just got kind of gracefully thrown into it by Sheena, and I'm super excited to be a part of it. But my role actually is not in the marketing department. I'm in the special events department. So I plan and coordinate weddings and events at Graceland. And yes, you can get married at Graceland if you'd like to. And when one of our marketing friend and coworkers left, Sheena asked me to come on board with her since I am an Elvis fan and have a communications background as well. So now we're podcast team.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, now that I learned about being able to get married there, I might go renew my vows.
I think you definitely should.
Yeah.
I want to see it.
It's actually really cool. I think people don't know that we actually host weddings and really huge events at Graceland. I mean, it is mind-blowing to see what Savannah and her team pull off.
And it's extremely cost-effective to get married there, and you get pictures in front of the mansion, which, whether you're a local or international, that's an amazing thing to do.
It really
I
is.
think when I spoke with Sheena in the past, people will decide when they visit, oh, we should get married. And they've gotten married kind of
Quickly.
short. Yeah.
Yeah. Some plan for a year, some plan for 2, and some just like to elope in the same week. So we're ready to do either.
That's good service right there.
Yeah.
I love it. Since we're talking about the podcast, let me ask how did that happen? What inspired the series?
Well, that was all Miss Sheena, so I'll let her take it away. This is her brainchild.
Yeah. Well, it's a stolen brainchild from someone else. It to me, when I think about the starting of the Starring Elvis Presley podcast, I think about Dawson's Creek, because we were sitting at work one day and someone was saying that their wife, was rewatching Dawson's Creek. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you should have her listen to my friend's podcast, because they have an intro cast for Dawson's Creek for several shows. I know they have Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I was on that one, an Angel one, several shows. And the idea is to take it episode by episode, cover one episode per episode of the podcast, and discuss the episode with people who have watched the show maybe growing up, and then people who have never seen it before. And it's a really fun way to talk about these shows, whether you're a total newbie or not. And I was like, hey, why don't we do that for Elvis movies? I feel like Elvis movies kind of get lost in the Elvis story, for better or for worse. And I was like, I think a lot of young Elvis fans are listening to podcasts, so let's bring Graceland and Elvis to the podcast world. We already have a very general Graceland podcast, which we're about to reboot, but we don't have anything that's on a specific topic. And I was just like, this would be something fun. And two, it helped me in my Elvis education, because I'd only seen a handful of movies before I started. Now I'll be able to say I've seen them all.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's how it started.
Well, just listening to y'all's podcast, one, I haven't seen an Elvis movie, but it does make me realize, I need to.
Oh, good.
Whether it sounds completely silly or like, this is actually pretty credible.
Right. Yeah.
Either direction, I want to see it.
Right.
I'm curious.
Yes.
And
I was going to say, I think that's one thing too. I think a lot of people write off Elvis movies as being silly or whatever. That's not true for all of them. And two, he worked with some really amazing people.
Amazing.
Being a classic movie nerd, I get really excited when I find out he worked with Michael Curtiz, who did Casablanca, and he worked with
Mary Tyler Moore.
I mean, so many different actors that I've seen in other movies. And then I'm like, there they are in an Elvis movie. Who knew?
Yeah.
And it's amazing to see those connections. I mean, I'm a big Betty Davis fan. There are various Betty Davis connections, but I mean, he remade a Betty Davis movie, Kid Galahad. So there you go. Yeah.
Right.
It's just so cool. I mean, there's so many little things that bring you back to the Elvis world that I think are worth exploring.
Right.
Do you know how many movies he made?
31 feature films, 33 if you count his 2 documentaries, which he made. And those were the last 2.
He also made documentaries?
2, yes. Elvis on Tour and Elvis, That's the Way It Is, which we are going to cover those as soon as we wrap up the feature films, and we're almost done.
Is this a film crew that just kind of followed the life of Elvis?
Yeah, both of them are concert documentaries, and they're really cool. One came out in, 72? The other one, 70?
Those are
Am I
2 of
wrong?
my favorite.
Yeah, they're really
things
good.
to
I mean,
watch. If you're an Elvis fan,
you
one of them
have to see them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You'll be
and
crying.
2, you'll be crying, but 2, what I think is so cool is that I was born in 83, Savannah, I can't remember when you were
90.
born. 90. So we're fans of someone who passed before we had a chance to see him live. Those 2 concert documentaries, there you go.
and they show you who he is.
Yeah.
Because you can watch a concert and you can see a movie where he's portraying, another character, but to watch him and to have someone, we don't get that luxury of nowadays. I mean, they even have how many documentaries on Justin Bieber, and we only have a few on Elvis Presley. And so it's our way to connect with him, as young fans and for older fans to reminisce about how he was and
relive
who he
those
was.
concerts.
Right. So those are my 2 favorites.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is pretty impressive that generations kind of relive the excitement of Elvis.
Oh yeah. We did the FedEx Forum.
Oh yeah.
What was
the
it?
concert that
The
we
concert.
had at the 40th Elvis week last year.
And it was The Wonder View.
Yes,
Right.
The Wonder View. Yeah.
Absolutely phenomenal. And when it started, my mother and I were literally in tears because it felt like he was in the room.
Because they had Elvis on a big screen, and they were pulling these performances from the 2 documentaries was 68 in there? I can't remember.
I don't remember.
I know Aloha from
Yeah.
Hawaii. So you're seeing Elvis on a big screen with a live band.
As if he's walking out
We
to perform.
also did that at our holiday concerts this year too, and it was complete with the 2001: A Space Odyssey of you having him walking in, and then at the end we had someone announce Elvis has left the building. I mean, I was almost in tears. I was just
real.
like, "This is so cool!" Like I feel
So
like I've really
having
been to an
things
Elvis
like that
movie. Yeah.
where Graceland or Elvis Presley Enterprises or anything that's, related to our company, having that kind of experience where you can use, digital media and video production to manipulate it as if he was there. It is an incredible experience for people like Sheena and I who didn't get to see him live. And it literally makes you feel like, my gosh, if a video makes you move to tears, you understand why these 70, 80, 90-year-old fans still love him and still travel all this way just to be in his home and in the presence of all of his belongings and
in the city of Memphis too.
exactly the home that he loved.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I don't even know what you asked because we just went on a total tangent.
That is okay.
We can tangent. We can talk about Elvis for a very long time.
We're getting swept up.
The power of Elvis.
Yes.
The presence is in this place right now.
Exactly. There you go.
Back to the y'all's podcast.
Yes.
Talking about that.
Yes.
Here's another question for you. Out of all these movies you've watched, have you gotten to watch all of them, Savannah?
I've watched the majority of them.
Okay. Out of all the ones that you have watched, which do you think was Elvis's most convincing role and why?
What do you think?
I always lean toward, as far as just acting ability and it being very dramatic, is King Creole.
Yeah, I knew.
He had the best director. That was Michael Curtiz. A really good supporting cast.
What was his role in King
He's like this young kid who is sort of on the down and out in New Orleans. It was filmed in New Orleans, so you get to see that. That's for sure. It's a really, if you love New Orleans, it's worth seeing, just to see the city. But he's sort of this down and out kind of kid, and he gets sort of involved with these, I don't want to say local gangsters, but I mean people who aren't up to no good, and his family is struggling, and it's really dramatic. And of course there's some romance there. Carolyn Jones is his leading lady in that one. She was Morticia Addams in the Munsters.
Right.
And not the
so
Munsters
cool.
in the Addams family.
Yeah.
Jeez. Getting everything abused. So he's a really good, but yeah, I mean, he's really good in that, but then I think he's really good too in some of the more lighthearted roles like Viva Las Vegas.
Right.
Where, gosh, all he has to do is just be pretty and sing a song.
Exactly.
And I mean, and he, has such good chemistry with Anne Margaret that happens. Their scenes are very natural to me. So those are two of probably my favorite roles.
But singing, obviously that's him.
Right.
But the acting, is he good about distinguishing his different characters?
Yeah.
I was expecting to hear a Western because I know how much y'all liked the Westerns.
Well,
There
have
are
that.
some Westerns. Yeah,
I have
and I was going
that.
to say, I mean, it's fascinating to me to see Elvis do some acting and then all of a sudden he has to sing a song.
He's got his breakout in song.
Because, man, it just, you hate to say that Elvis was a bad actor, but he really does shine in his performances. Jailhouse Rock is a great movie, but then you get to the quote-unquote first music video ever, the scene where he performs Jailhouse Rock, and you're like, yes, this is why this man is a star.
Yeah.
He looked beautiful for the whole hour of the movie or whatever, and then all of a sudden you see this amazing dance sequence and you're like, wow.
Right.
So
It's amazing.
He is a good performer from the whole way
From the whole way through.
So if he is in a Western, does he sing with an accent?
So with Love Me Tender,
It depends on the movie.
Yeah, with Love Me Tender, that's one of my favorite movies. And that was his very first movie. And I love that movie because you can just see he's so young and he's trying so hard.
He learned the lines. He didn't just learn his lines, he learned every actor on the set's lines.
Yeah,
So
he was
would be that
serious.
player. He was very sincere.
And he
very
overachieved
serious.
in everything that he did, and
Yeah.
movies included. I mean, whether it was we could argue all day about whether the plot was what held him back or not, but whatever role he had, he did full force. The one thing that we always say on our podcast is, for the most part, he looked like he had fun and he looked like he enjoyed it. And again, like Sheena said, he worked with phenomenal casts. I mean, how could you not enjoy working alongside someone like Mary Tyler Moore or, Shelley Fabre or people like that? In addition to being a great singer and performer, Sheena and I both agree he was a great actor. It just sometimes the plot did not provide a great platform to work on.
Well, and that's the thing too. I was going to say, you were talking about the movies where he doesn't sing. The movies where he doesn't sing quite as much didn't perform as well.
Right. Because people want to
So-
hear him
They
sing.
want to hear him
I
sing.
can
So
see
it's a very I think it was very frustrating for Elvis because he did more meatier roles where he didn't sing, and he doesn't sing in Charo.
Yeah.
We just watched that one. He doesn't sing in that. You just hear him singing the title song, and that's it. But he doesn't. There's no performance in that.
Right.
But I enjoyed it. I mean, I know not to spoil our next episode, but I enjoyed it. It's interesting. I think Elvis could have really done some interesting movies and done some really good acting had he been given better material.
I think there was a lot of political things going on in terms of we want to make money and we want, not necessarily Elvis, but, his production company, his managers, et cetera, want to make money. And so let's just have you sing and dance versus give you a serious role that you're going to enjoy. Because like Sheena said, he did get frustrated with the fact that he's sitting at a bar and he felt silly that he would just break out in song. Now the fans loved it. Fans loved it.
That's a hard job.
It is. And after
to make it seem natural.
Right.
And after over 30 movies,
it doesn't work.
and after over 30 movies, I mean, come on, the same kind of redundant thing.
And remind people too, I don't think people realize this, but 30 movies in what time span?
56 to 69.
Yeah, it was over 10 years.
And then you've got to count too. He had 2 years in Germany during that time, from 58 to 60, where
You're packing
he
in
did
a
nothing.
lot.
It's incredible amount of work.
Incredible. And he was working on some years he was working on multiple movies. One,
Like
2
3
movies, 3
in a year.
movies.
And these are movies you have to dance to.
Dance,
You have to
sing.
dance in it. Yeah, I mean, choreographed numbers. You have
a lot.
all of these fight scenes that are choreographed as well.
Swooning women.
Yeah, you have to navigate the ladies.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a lot to some of them too, and it's I think people want to knock them and all this, but I go back to, I love being a fan. I think Elvis fans enjoy being a fan of Elvis.
Right.
And so you do hear some fans kind of knock the movies. You hear other fans praise them. Either way, I think these movies brought Elvis more fans.
Right.
Yeah.
And kept the fans he had.
It may have, was it the most artistic thing he could have done? Are some of them, gems? No, there's some that aren't that great. I mean, yeah, Elvis would have probably told you that, but I've talked to a million fans, and all of them have their different favorite, movies. And some of them will say, even on some of the worst movies, that they'll say, that's my favorite because that's the first time I ever saw him.
Right.
Well, then that to me is worth it.
It is worth it.
Yeah.
And they have to understand, again, the underground thing that's going on. Elvis was locked into contracts. Elvis had a manager. Elvis had people around him. As much of an individual powerhouse as he was, he had a boss. He had, he had someone there kind of telling him what to do to a point.
And he's young.
And he was young.
Yeah.
And if Hollywood comes up to you and says, would you like to make millions and be a Hollywood star? You say yes, because he did want to be a serious actor, but I think like anything he does, he takes it, he makes the best out of it, and he did great work that I feel like no matter what, he should be proud of. So,
All right. Well, out of all these movies, who was your favorite female co-star?
that is hard because, when you have people like Nancy Sinatra and Anne Margaret, it is very hard.
I'm now gathering that there are quite a bit.
I love Shelley Fabre, and Lord help that I'm saying her last name right. She is my favorite. She was in Clam Bake, Spin Out, and my favorite movie, Girl Happy. I think she was absolutely beautiful. She had that 50s look. Like if you see her in Girl Happy, her hair like flips out like a little Barbie doll. She just looks so 50s. I love her chemistry with Elvis and her general acting style. I just love her to death.
Yeah.
She's my favorite. What about you?
I'm going to have to go with Anne Margaret. I do love to watch Viva Las Vegas because their chemistry is so cool. And two, I love that Anne Margaret, I'm not knocking the other co-stars. They are all amazingly talented, but she stands on her own. She has her own song in the film. There's not many other co-stars that do that. Most of them are duets, if they even sing at all.
Yeah.
And wasn't on the poster Elvis and Margaret's name the same size?
I think so.
So, it wasn't just like Anne
Oh,
Star.
wait, is that the one that was controversial because she was almost as big of a star as
Yes.
him?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
She was a very big star.
I really liked Speedway, therefore I liked Nancy Sinatra. And two, when we tweeted, hey, we're watching Speedway, tell us your thoughts on the movie, and we're thinking we're going to get, our fans telling us, we love this song, we love this scene. Nancy Sinatra actually wrote us back and said she missed Elvis.
Yeah.
And that was so sweet.
So sweet.
It's things like that. And then I think some of my favorite, I hate to say they're female co-stars. Some of them are, but they're not like that. I love the two kids. If you see, oh my gosh, Girls, 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 and Blue Hawaii, and some of these, it happened at the World's Fair. There's these set of siblings that are in several Elvis movies.
Yeah.
And they're adorable.
They are
And they're
adorable.
so cute. And they do such a good job. And so they're not a female co-star, lovey-dovey. They're all really young, but it's so cute to see Elvis play with those kids.
Yeah.
They're totally charming.
Yeah. But how could you not love any of the female co-stars and slightly be jealous of them?
Yeah, who was the first kiss that someone from Graceland interviewed?
Oh, is that Dolores Hart? She was the first one to receive a kiss from Elvis on screen, if I remember correctly.
Because she said they both turned red.
Yeah, probably.
Like, they had
probably.
to. So here's the next question. Were fans able to listen to the songs from the movies only by watching the movie? This is for me, obviously, because I wasn't really sure.
Right.
So were fans able to listen to the songs from the movies only by watching the movie, or were soundtrack albums released for people to purchase? Because that's how we know of it today.
Right,
but
yeah.
I didn't know.
They did release soundtracks.
Okay. I guess vinyls.
Yeah,
then.
exactly, yeah. I mean, a lot of times they would coincide with the movie or they might come out a little bit before the movie. I know in particular with Love Me Tender, because the song was such a major hit that they ended up changing the name of the movie. The name of the movie was the Reno Brothers, I believe. Wasn't it the Reno Brothers?
I can't remember.
Okay. Because he plays Clint Reno, right?
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not dreaming this, right? Okay. There are so many Elvis movies. Sometimes I'm like, wait, which one? But I believe they changed the name of the movie to Love Me Tender because that was such a popular song.
Right.
And he sings it in the film anyway. There was no soundtrack released for Stay Away Joe. There's not a lot of music in that anyway. Even though there were no songs in Charo, he did record some music for Charo, but I think they released that on other releases. And generally, because so much stuff has been released in the years since, there may not be a Charo soundtrack for you to purchase, but you'll find those tracks on other releases. So it's one way or another.
Are those hard to come by?
No, not generally speaking. You can find them. Yeah.
Okay.
You can find them one way or another. So.
Yeah.
Do you have a particular favorite soundtrack?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Like how many songs would you say would be on one?
It depends on the movie.
And
Some
they would
movies,
sell them regardless? Like if there was only 5?
yeah, it'd be sort of like an EP type thing.
Okay.
Right.
I don't know.
And a lot of the singles, that weren't as popular outside of the movie, a lot of the fans love to get married to. I mean, like Pocket Full of Rainbows isn't super popular in terms of like just general Elvis fans, but like, that's kind of the underground songs that the Elvis fans like that are from movies. And
I was about to say, I know like Harem Scarum is a movie that almost no one loves, but from that movie is a song called So Close Yet So Far Away from Paradise. And
people
it's
love
beautiful. And so, it's funny.
It's like a ballad.
It's a beautiful ballad.
Beautiful ballad.
From probably not one of the best Elvis movies, but just that one scene will sell you on it. Trust me.
And when we do podcasts, Sheena will post on Facebook, like, what was your favorite part? A lot of them, it is the songs that they love. Like, I love that scene.
Like Bossa Nova Baby or something.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if I have a favorite, just one soundtrack, because I like them. I like so many songs from so many different movies.
Right. And I kind of like more of singles from certain movies, not necessarily soundtracks. Because to be completely honest, not every single song that Elvis was presented with, of course, he executed it well, but not every single song was like, oh, that's great, great song. But, so not necessarily a soundtrack, but definitely singles, you would just have that moment where you took away and impacted you.
And I will say this too, there are several songs that I didn't realize were from movies.
Right, me too.
Same here.
Me
Return
too.
to Sender,
Yep.
Can't Help Falling in Love, Bossa Nova Baby, that you're like, oh, didn't know that actually came from a movie.
He'll start singing it in a movie and you're like, oh
wait
my
a minute.
gosh.
This is the first time anyone heard this song. Like, I grew up on it, so I didn't know it came from a movie.
That's true.
Yeah.
So many of those songs.
Yes.
Would you say the Elvis karate chop was a signature move? Now, this is something that I noticed was a little bit recurring. And it made me laugh because I can't visualize what the karate chop is, but I can imagine it's pretty comical.
Well, in Harem Scarum,
actually.
he karate chops a jaguar. We were watching it together and we were like, did he just karate chop that jaguar? But Elvis was in karate in his personal life. He was a 7th degree
so that was his
black
own
belt.
thing.
Yeah, he really knew.
It was his own thing.
Yeah, he actually was excellent at karate. He practiced it so much, actually. There was some movie, I can't remember which one, where outside of the set, he was practicing, I want to say it was Girls. He was chopping up to 40 boards a night.
Yeah.
And finally Hal Wallace, Wallace finally was like, can you please
belt.
not do this because you're going to break your hand.
Yeah.
And that'll slow down production.
Yeah.
I mean, he was serious about it. He enjoyed it.
So I think it probably just came natural to him.
It was really natural, and that's one thing I've loved watching about.
It's funny though.
Because I'm such a choreography nerd. I love choreographed fights too.
Yeah.
And I love how even in the fight scenes, he's not just punching a guy.
He is karate chopping.
But he will also karate chop.
But nothing takes the place of karate chopping a jaguar.
And that was the cool thing about Elvis, was Elvis was not the kind of star that was like, oh, excuse me, I'm too good to do this scene. Elvis was like, please, can I do my own fight scenes?
Right.
Yeah, so there was no stunt double.
And if
I mean, sometimes, but not always.
And if you know about Elvis movies, there's primarily 2 things: women and fights. So he fought. They had lots of fights. Like Sheena and I would always laugh. Like, okay, how many times did he kiss a girl, and how many times did he get in a fight? You can make a great drinking game out of that. So
was the fight with the jaguar to save a girl?
I think it was.
Who knows? At that point, we were so shocked. But yeah, so that was actually stemmed from his personal life. He was in karate. He was a fantastic in all sports, really, but he developed a love for karate, deep love for karate.
Yeah.
You can actually buy, did you see that in the gift shop in Haberdashery? There's actually
the karate gi.
The gi.
It's just
that's
like
got
his.
TCB. That's just like his.
It's so cool. Yeah.
So, that was a big part of his life, and it just kind of, I guess it was like muscle memory to him. They were like, punch that guy. And he was like, I will karate chop you. So, but it is comical. And if you're an Elvis fan, it's kind of cool to see that the worlds
I think
blend.
it's really cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's really
Black
cool. And I mean,
belt.
yeah. We actually talked about that in one of our most recent Gates of Graceland. We have this web series where we take you behind the scenes and we show you like things in the archives. And we did show the karate outfits that he wore. So it's a really cool thing. I mean, I know people like to make the joke of Elvis movies are fighting and kissing a girl and singing a song, and some of them do have those elements.
Right.
A lot of them do. But I mean, there's something charming about all of them. And he doesn't karate chop a jaguar in all of them. Just
Only
to
one.
him scare them.
And we support him.
Yes.
Sorry, Jaguar.
I would go back to see a sequel of Jaguar Karate Chop.
Yeah.
Just on repeat.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You mentioned in your episode Tickle Me, not knowing why that was the name of the movie. Which, if any, movie titles would you say actually had a good meaning behind it? And I thought it was interesting that you brought up that one that the title changed.
Yeah, because, I mean, the movie titles changed so often. They still do.
Right.
I mean, you know, with today's movies, they'll have a working title and then it'll change to several different things. But it's funny to see how some of the Elvis ones evolved, because there are some of them that if it's based on a book, it may have the book title for a while, and then they'll change it to something else. Like I know King Creole was, I think it's based on a book called The Story of Danny Fisher, something about Danny Fisher, I think. But then it's called King Creole because there's a song called King Creole.
So most of it, do you think was
A
based
lot
on
of
the
them
song?
are based on a song. There's almost always a girls, girls, girls song in Girls, Girls, Girls or something like that. So there are several that actually do fit. Now, Tickle Me, I don't think there is a song called Tickle Me.
Or you have something similar to Jailhouse Rock, which not only is that an Elvis song, but he plays a guy who goes to jail. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
And performs a song called Jailhouse
in
Rock. So
Blue
it works out
Hawaii,
beautifully.
he goes to Hawaii. You know, so
Yeah.
they coincide together quite often.
And Double Trouble, you know, two girls, you know, that type of thing.
So the most part, they did make sense. There were only a few that we were like, what?
But even then, I mean, like, I think that was sort of the genius marketing of Colonel Parker, as, you know, with a movie like Tickle Me, he mass produced these feathers that were, you know, memorabilia that you could buy, you know, as a souvenir, but also too to promote the movie.
Right.
Tickle Me, it's a feather, ha ha ha.
Was there a lot of, was it the production of it maybe? Like visually, did it have a lot of feathers?
I don't think it did. I can't remember. I
That's
don't think so.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that was just a random one.
Yeah.
But like I said, the other ones did have
Was
meaning.
it a comedy?
Primarily.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And it was
Almost all of his are
silly.
comedies.
It was silly. So maybe that's what it was.
Okay.
But there are a few that Sheena and I kind of scratch our heads out. But for the most part, it had to do with one of his hits or, you know, the concept or the plot of the movie for the most part.
Wasn't Live a Little, Love a Little, it was almost called Kiss My Firm But Pliant Lips
Yes.
or something?
Yes.
Something random. And I'm like, thank God they went with Live a Little, Love a Little.
I know.
That rolls off the tongue better. It sounds like an Elvis movie, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems to be that Elvis's movies didn't get critically acclaimed, as we kind of talked about already. But they were well loved by the fans, it seems to be, right? So why do you think that is? And I'm curious why critics didn't give Elvis the benefit of the doubt, or, you know,
Well,
like,
I think...
were they short maybe of movies? Or?
Well, they were about 90 minutes usually.
Oh, okay.
They weren't primarily long. But I'll say one thing about the fans is that, and I'm sure Sheena will agree, I truly believe up until this day, even with Elvis passed, you know, over 40 years ago, I believe and I have seen that Elvis fans are some of the most loyal fans that there are. They are loyal. And even if they don't like a movie or they don't like a particular song or they didn't like a particular decade, you know, they are loyal to
and they're
the
going to
end.
still love him in that movie, probably.
And they're connected to Elvis in such a personal
Yes.
way.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, everything that we do at Graceland and at Elvis Presley Enterprises, they take to heart, you know,
Yeah.
and they want to be involved in, they want to know about, and they want to support even to this day. You know, they are extremely, extremely loyal. So that's why I think that, you know, the movies are even slightly popular is because they stick by their man. They love him, they care about him. And when they talk about him, it's often like when Sheena and I talk about him, it's not like he's this unreachable superstar. It's like he's the guy sitting next to you. And that was the appeal to Elvis, is that he could be the megastar, but also the good old boy from Tupelo. Mm-hmm. And so I just think they connect with him and they stay with him for life, so.
Well, and my thing too, it's interesting in doing social media for Graceland and hearing from the fans on a daily basis from all over the world, I do see a spectrum of thoughts. And there are a lot of fans who say, why are you shedding light on these movies? We need to let them fade into the background. This is not a high point in his career. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you guys have seen The Searcher, the documentary that just came out. I mean, they're a little, they're a little harsh on the movies, which I get. If you're looking at Elvis's career from a pop culture standpoint and you're looking at his artistry, I get why you're not going to say, wow, Clam Bake was the height of Elvis's career, because it wasn't. Yeah. You're going to look a couple of years later to the 6-8 special, for example. If you're looking for some artistic integrity, sure. Yeah. However, I see it from a fan standpoint of, you got to think about the times that it was. They didn't have cell phones back then where you could just, 2 or 3 clicks and you're seeing an Elvis video. Yeah. You couldn't see him on TV because he was past his Ed Sullivan days. If you wanted to see this man, not just hold your 45 record sleeve, but actually go see him, you had to go to the theater to do it. And fans, it's like you hear all the time, they went to see movies 11 times.
Right. Yeah. And these movies still made money.
And
millions.
They did. That's what I was thinking. Because it says something.
And so I think these young fans, who most of them were youngish, I'm not saying they were all teeny boppers, I'm sure there were fans in their 20s or 30s, but they have got to have, I'm jealous of them because they did get to go see the premiere of the new Elvis flick at whatever theater in their hometown and scream when they saw him on stage. How fun could that have been? I love being a fan. I love liking things, and I like it when other fans get excited about something.
Right. And you take it personally.
And you really take it personally because, man, that's a great memory of going to see Jailhouse Rock with your girlfriends, sneaking out from the house or something on a Friday night in 1957. And seeing a movie or whatever. I mean, that
would be really exciting.
Yeah. And when you love someone who is a musician or artist or a superstar, you want as much as you can get of them.
Sure.
So that was a way of getting him even more. Like, okay, we've got his songs. Okay, well, now he's in Germany. Okay, well, now he's back. And now we got movies and we've got, so you want, and that's what her and I always say when we kind of discuss movies and maybe we both agree it wasn't our favorite. We're both like, at the end of the day, we loved it because it was Elvis, and that is the key foundation and the consistent thing about all the movies is that Elvis was good in them, and that's why the fans like it because Elvis is in it.
I think you've just got to know what your expectation is, in my opinion. I think if you want to go and watch an Elvis movie for some artistic reason or to see an important pop culture moment, you're going to look at Jailhouse Rock or Viva Las Vegas. Right. But if you want to just watch an Elvis movie just to kick back and have some laughs and watch something that's lighthearted, you're going to watch, a Clam Bake or a Girl Happy or whatever because it's just lighthearted and pretty.
And in Elvis's defense, we've said this often as well. Number one, how many actors today are producing the amount of movies that he did in that over 10-year span? Right. That many times a year. Yeah. And how many people have either not won awards, have got slammed by the critics, and we're talking about people that were trained, Juilliard trained, people who've been around since they were teenagers, people like Drew Barrymore, love her, or Meryl Streep or people like that. You have highs and lows for all actors. And Elvis Presley was a boy from Tupelo who got thrown into Hollywood. Yeah. And I think he did the best that he could with what he got. He did. So, and yeah.
So these basically kind of became all cult classics, which
they are.
For some people, that's bigger than a blockbuster.
Exactly.
Right. Super silly in the end.
Exactly.
And then you even mentioned, now you could go to, and I've seen it myself when I go, to the Memphis Symphony Orchestra and they put their Elvis tribute on.
Love it.
And people stand up and give a standing ovation to a screen.
Yeah,
exactly.
And it's because it's like this.
It's so powerful.
You feel like he's there. It's just.
Yeah, I love it. I get that way when I hear his gospel music.
Yes, exactly. And I think That's the cool thing too, is you mentioned Bieber earlier, Beyonce. There's so many stars that are huge today, and when you see them perform, you think, wow, that is Beyonce. Like the Coachella performance, you're like, wow, that was so Beyonce. You go back and you watch these movies and you're like, these are so Elvis, especially when he's performing. And you can only see some of that through these movies.
Right.
You know?
And Elvis had such a short life and such a short career that it's almost like you hold that even more close. That regardless of whether those movies were, box office hits, that was a part of his very short life. And so as an Elvis fan, you value that. You're like, I don't care if Harem Scarum wasn't that great. He was alive then, and so, you cherish that. You almost put him in little boxes. Okay, this is movie times. This is the 50s times, the 60s times, the 70s times. And you value that and you hold close to that no matter what happened during those times.
Yeah. So interesting.
Yeah. Can you tell that we're fans?
Yeah.
I'm like getting hot.
This is so great. I think that's one of the things personally that I wasn't an Elvis fan. I didn't really know much about Elvis until I moved to Memphis, and I love doing touristy things. And that's how I came to Graceland. And Graceland changed my entire perspective. I give huge
We
props
hear
to
that all the
Graceland.
time.
Yeah. And I think the biggest part of it is, one, yes, Graceland did it because you see how much he accomplished.
Right.
And like you said, it's
a short time.
Crazy what he
did.
But on top of that, when you see his fans, I think that's what really reeled it in for me. Is seeing like there is some serious devotion here.
Right.
And people come from across the waters to come see
they
him.
do.
And devotion that is passed down to generations,
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I think is really cool is when, again, on social media, you'll see people be like, oh man, I love such and such movie. And they'll say, I know it's not a good one, but I used to watch it with my dad and now he's passed. And so this is my connection to him or whatever. I mean, we hear that kind of stuff all the time. And I mean, I know the critics can sit there and slam any movie, but when you have that personal connection to it,
right.
I mean, even a terrible movie that was released 2 weeks ago, whatever that is, if you have a personal connection to it, you're just going to love it. And I feel like Elvis fans love a lot of these movies for a million different reasons.
And I think in terms of what you said earlier about why did the critics kind of react the way they did, and I think, it was Elvis, and he's on a very high pedestal. There were really wonderful movies coming out in that time. And I think he did get some good praise, from critics. And again, regardless of what the critics had to say, it still made millions.
Yeah.
So
and he got Grammys too, I think, on some of them.
He got Grammy for
his gospel
his gospel music. But, I don't think any of them raked him over the coals too bad or anything like that. But again, it was an Elvis movie and it was Elvis Presley. And so they had really high standards. And I think the beginning of his movie career was probably well acclaimed then. Towards the end, after 31 movies, not everyone is going to be a top hit. So I think Love Me Tender, the critics were pretty nice to him during that, weren't they?
They were, for those pre-Army movies. They were pretty good to him for those. So,
but critics, they're critical. I mean, that's what they do.
Job, Gotta love the critics. This was a question I had about your podcast, the very intro, which I really enjoy, the little intro clip that comes in before you guys start. The last sound clip is an announcer saying, now he crowns his meteoric... I don't know if I can try this. Now he crowns his meteoric... Am I saying that right? Meteoric...
I didn't write it.
I was going to say meteoric rise to fame.
To fame with a
fiery burst of dramatic power.
Yeah.
Yes, that's it.
Do you know what movie that's...
I do. The funny thing is I had the idea because I'd seen so many Elvis movie trailers and they all said starring Elvis Presley. And I meant for us to have a bunch of starring Elvis Presley, starring Elvis Presley, starring Elvis Presley. And then we start, but our amazing AV guy at Graceland, Bevan, a lot of people in town know Bevan. He's awesome. Does such a good job for us. He created this for us and he had that in there and I'm like, oh my God, that's genius. And it's from King Creole.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. It's like the first thing you see. I mean, it's the first thing you hear as far as like an over the narrative because it's like a couple of scenes of stuff and then all of a sudden this guy comes in. Now he crowns his meteoric rise and I'm like, that just sounds so cool. Like,
Is this someone that would be like an MC before the live theater? He would come out and talk about the movie before it started?
No, it's on the trailer. Yeah, it's in the trailer.
It's for the trailer.
Yeah. So you can Google all of the trailers are on YouTube.
Yeah.
We didn't put them
This
up.
would be fun to watch too.
They
like to watch the trailers.
I love to watch the trailers because it's sort of like, what am I getting into? But also
And to
like,
see how they advertised back in the 50s and 60s, it is pretty funny as well.
Because I did watch, we're about to watch The Trouble with Girls is our next movie after Charo. And I was actually watching the Trouble with Girls trailer today. So,
Really?
Yeah. It made me a little dizzy. There was some crazy camera work in it. But
Oh, gosh.
That's okay.
So now that we're winding down here, what ideas do you have brewing for another series, if there is one, or any? What's in the future of anything, of the podcast, of Graceland, anything?
Well, like I said, we did have an Elvis or a Graceland podcast anyway that was more news-based. And we're going to reboot that very, very soon. We had sort of let that slide as starring Elvis Presley sort of took up so much time. But that will be hopefully debuting soon, I hope.
And what can people find on this?
It's the same
podcast?
place. Yeah, we're going to have everything in that same feed. So that way, whether you want to listen to the news or starring Elvis Presley, you'll find them all there. And you can pick and choose what you want to listen to. We have discussed a zillion different ideas. Literally, we counted it a zillion. For something else. I mean, we've discussed Elvis books. We've discussed jumpsuits, albums.
I would really love to do books because and of course, if I continue to piggyback on this podcast, that I'm not in that department, but I've just kind of hopped on. I'm holding on for dear life. I told Sheena I would love to do like a monthly book club kind of because there are a lot of books out there. Now, of course, there are a lot of books that we would not be reviewing. This would obviously be any books that you could find in a Graceland gift shop that we obviously would
that
be
way it's
in
easy
support
access
of.
too, so fans can go to our gift shop and pick it up,
right?
And they can read along with
and
us.
we would only use people that obviously had Elvis's best interest at heart. So there's books about by Priscilla Presley, Jerry Schilling, and George Klein, Elvis's friends, members of the Memphis Mafia, things like that. And of course, there's biographies about
Peter Goralnik's books are excellent,
phenomenal.
Ernst Jorgensen.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, and Ernst Jorgensen, if you want some very well researched books about Elvis's music, you cannot go wrong with Ernst.
Right.
It's amazing.
So I would love like a monthly. We can't do weekly, definitely. I mean, it's hard enough just to watch a movie sometimes. But yeah, a monthly book club. And, Sheena, like she said, something about jumpsuits and everything. So
we have a lot of ideas.
Lots of ideas.
Yeah, so we'll figure it out.
There's so much to talk about.
We're still doing the movies, though. We've got to record Charo soon. And then we'll have Trouble with Girls and Change of Habit. And then I think to round out the series, we're also going to do the 2 documentaries. We're going to do the 2 TV specials, 68 and Aloha. I'd like to do The Searcher because that is an Elvis documentary. We'll see. We have a couple of more things that we don't want to just leave Elvis fans hanging.
Yeah.
So.
And the good thing is you'll never run out of things to talk about when it comes to Elvis.
That's true.
You never will. It's been over 40 years and we still haven't. So
yeah.
And I like that you brought up the book club because I did want to mention, like you said, with people can go to the bookstore, pick up the book, read it, and know to listen to the podcast to hear what the review is.
Right.
I feel like that's also the case with these movies. Like I was listening to these of your episodes and thinking, oh, this would be fun if I knew what was coming up, if I'd followed along.
Yeah.
Right.
And I got to watch the movie first and then.
Oh, yeah.
And then whenever I hear y'all talking, I have a visual of it.
Right.
So it's fun either way, but I do think that's kind of cool about this podcast is that people can follow along.
It's almost like a group activity. It's a way for us to connect, for Graceland to connect with the Elvis fans.
Well, I just feel like, I know people say all the time, no star is anyone without their fans, and that's so true. But with Elvis fans, and we've said this plenty of times about Elvis Week, is that it feels like a family reunion.
Right.
So many, we've learned a lot of these Elvis fans. We see them year after year for our events. And so it's just a fun way to connect. It's another way to connect, something else to geek out with them about and be like, oh my God, didn't you love that? Because I did that actually at birthday. There were some fans from New Orleans and we geeked out about, So Close Yet So Far Away. So it was like, oh my God, we love that song.
Yeah.
So it's just a really fun thing to connect with fans and to just maybe, I'm hoping, bring Elvis's movies to a new generation too. If they're tuning into a podcast, maybe they'll also be like, hey, let me go see what these movies are about.
Because it is our job to stay with the times and be, a little bit tech savvy to a point, you know, and kind of keep up with the times. I mean, it is our job. That's what Elvis did. He was ahead of his time. And I think in order to appeal to the younger fans, you've got to do that. And that is our job, is to keep his legacy going. And, you know, the podcast is just another way to do that.
As much as he loved to read, he also loved technology. And I'd like to think the man who had the first car phone would also enjoy podcasts.
Right, right. And he actually listened to speeches a lot. He listened and memorized speeches like Dr. Martin Luther King. He would memorize the I Have a Dream speech. So, you know, he was ahead of his time, and it's our job to do the same. So this is just another way to do that.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, now, another thing I noticed from y'all's podcast is that you sometimes end with trivia. But
I gotta go.
And you normally give the trivia facts, which is cool. But this time I'm going to ask y'all.
I'm going to be horrible at this.
To see if y'all can answer these questions.
I hope so.
And even any guess you give is a good guess.
Okay.
All right. First, which was Elvis's highest grossing film?
Oh, goodness.
There was a lot of them.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
There were a lot.
Let me think.
Are you talking about all time or upon release?
All time, because this does talk about a adjusted for inflation.
Okay.
franchise.
Isn't it Viva?
I'm going to say Viva.
I think that was up there.
Viva for $100, please. That's not
but
it.
I can clearly remember some kind of trivia that says everyone thinks the highest grossing Elvis movie is blank,
Jailhouse
but it's
Rock.
actually blank.
It's not.
Blue Hawaii?
I thought Blue Hawaii too. It's not Love Me Tender. It is Love Me Tender?
Love Me Tender.
Good job,
Didn't you
young
say that was one of your
Elvis.
favorites?
That is my second favorite. That and Grow
It's his
Happy.
first movie.
Good job, Elvis. Yeah, okay.
The one
Love Me
that
Tender.
was well received was, I guess, the best one.
Okay. All right.
That was his first one?
That was his first one.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah.
It said box office was $9.24 million in 1956, 133.2 million adjusted for inflation.
Gotcha. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay. I
Like
see what
over
you're saying.
time,
Yeah.
how it got more popular.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I think initial box office it wasn't.
Right.
So
Right.
that's probably why that was tricky. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
I'm not trying to trick you all.
No, that's okay. We get it. We see the game you're playing.
Number 2. Can you guess which movie got the highest star rating on IMDb?
Oh, I love looking at the ratings of this website. I know it was not any of the movies towards the end because I go on there sometimes and sadly there's like 2 or 3 stars.
It's one that y'all mentioned.
Viva Elvis. I mean, Viva Elvis.
Viva
Las
Elvis.
Vegas. That's a Cirque du Soleil show. Viva Las Vegas.
Yeah, this is one that you mentioned.
Blue Hawaii. Dang.
Jailhouse?
No, I guess we mentioned a lot of movies. Sorry, that was
We
bad.
did,
That was
yeah.
bad.
And if it's not Viva.
I thought it was your favorite.
Oh, King Creole.
King Creole.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it would. No, it's not my favorite. Viva's probably my favorite.
Oh, that's right.
And one that I love that we have not
Convincing
mentioned.
Role, that's what it was.
Convincing Role, yeah. One that I love that we haven't mentioned actually, because it's pretty, location-wise, and Elvis looks good, is Follow That Dream.
Oh, yeah.
Like, no one, when you mention Elvis movies, no one's like, I was like, Follow That Dream. But I love Follow That Dream. I love that movie. It's really pretty. He filmed it in Florida.
Yeah.
So it's just really
He
pretty.
loves some Florida.
Oh, yeah, it's
That's
really
where I'm
pretty.
from.
Yeah.
Shout
My
out to
answer,
Florida.
my answer to everything is now going to be Viva Las Vegas. That's what I'm saying.
I don't think you can answer that on this one.
I'm going to.
Which of these actors has not played Elvis? All right, I'm giving a
Oh.
list of actors. Unfortunately, I meant to go back and give the movie that they acted in, so
That's okay.
I can't verify. I'm just trusting that the site was right. I got this wrong. Kurt Russell.
He did, and he starred in an Elvis movie.
Good job.
He's in It Happened at the World's Fair. He is the shin kicker. He kicks Elvis's shin.
Oh, that's right. That's
It's
right.
one of my favorite scenes.
Look at you.
Yeah,
Sorry,
at least I know that.
Thanks, Sheena.
This one I'm not so... Well, I'll keep going.
Okay.
Steve Martin, Val Kilmer, Sylvester Stallone.
You said who did not play Elvis?
Yeah, which of these actors has not played Elvis?
I don't remember Sylvester
Don't think
Stallone doing it.
him. Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. We knew it the whole time.
We knew it the whole time.
It was Frank Stallone. I don't think Frank Stallone.
I'm trying to picture
His
Sylvester's
brother.
face, and I was like, I don't think you did Elvis.
Amazing.
I follow Sylvester Stallone on Twitter. I would have seen had he posted something Elvis related. Not on Twitter, Instagram. Sorry.
Instagram.
Awesome. All right. This was something that I remembered from one of your episodes.
Oh, goodness.
Writers Edward Burns and Elwood Ullman were known as writers for the Three Stooges and also which Elvis movie?
Was it Tickle Me?
Yes, right? Because it was silly. And we were like, now we understand why.
Or
It was, I remember the conversation. We were like, oh, now we
Or-
get why that person, the Three Stooges.
I hate to name that movie by what I'm thinking. He sings "I've Got a Dirty, Dirty Feeling" in it.
I got a dirty, Lord
What's
help.
the name of that movie?
There's 31 of them, guys. Okay, give us a break. I don't know. I know we had the conversation about, man, that makes sense that the Three Stooges writer wrote this. I think it's Tickle Me.
It is Tickle Me.
Okay.
Oh, is it?
This whole
Okay.
time we were like, and you're
sorry.
like, yeah.
Well, I was thinking there was some
someone-
I was like, what is it? What is that movie? I don't know.
I can't remember. Yeah, I remember us having that conversation. We were like, this is an odd script. And then we were like, oh, yeah, it kind of makes sense with the Three Stooges
I could
thing.
have swore though that one that we're talking about. I'm
It's
gonna
always,
kick
it's
myself.
always easy to second guess yourself.
I know.
That's why I loved it. You all were like certain it was Tickle Me, and then I was like,
No way.
Maybe it's not.
Maybe it's
Yeah.
not.
Maybe that's too obvious.
I have way too much like classic movie trivia in my head
I know.
anyway, so I get it confused with
We would
Elvis
be really
stuff.
bad at Jeopardy. But.
Yes, we would.
All right. In what movie was a stunt double used for Elvis because he was barred from entering the territory that they filmed in?
Fun in Acapulco.
Yeah.
Oh, good job.
Yes.
And it was called Fun in Acapulco. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, there's someone, there's a whole big cliff diving scene, and it's
Amazing.
not Elvis.
Can you tell that it's not him?
Yes and no. It did pretty good, but yeah, you can sort of tell.
How much of the movie was filmed there?
Not much. They did a lot of Elvis's scenes in like California, I think, and then they just picked up some sort of, I don't want to say B-roll, but it's sort of type B-roll type stuff there. But I just remember laughing because there's a whole cliff diving scene, and I think Elvis's hair stays dry the entire time. I'm not sure, but I think so. He looks really good though. Either way, he looks great. So it's like,
It's true.
no matter what happens, Elvis will look good in a movie.
There you go. And last, y'all are doing really well. What Elvis song was the first record to reach number 1 on the Billboard Country and Western, Rhythm and Blues, and Pop charts all in 1 week?
Was it That's All Right, Mama? No? What, oh, from his movies?
No, actually, this is just a song.
Okay, say it one more time.
What Elvis song was the first record to reach number 1 on the Billboard Country and
Country,
Western,
Western,
Rhythm and Blues,
Rhythm and Blues.
and Pop charts all in 1 week? Sorry, I'm getting
I
getting
want to
confused with
say
another
I
song.
forgot to remember to forget, but I don't think it's that. I think it's Heartbreak. Is it Heartbreak?
It is. How did you know
Good
that?
job.
And I was thinking Lonesome Tonight, but no.
No.
How does Heartbreak go? Do you mind
Since
singing
my
it?
baby left me.
Yes.
Are you talking about Heartbreak Hotel? Okay, I was
Yeah.
like, wait, what?
That makes more sense.
But I think I forgot to remember to forget was his first number 1 in general.
Really?
On any chart. I believe so. And everyone wants to say That's All Right or Heartbreak, but actually it was that one, I think. On any chart, I think. I may be wrong on that. The Elvis knowledge. Oh,
Very good. I'm really impressed. That was really good.
That was good.
And one last thing too that I thought about is y'all's episode is good about breaking myths, like the dog that was which episode or which movie was it?
Live a Little,
Brutus?
Love a Little. Yeah.
Brutus.
Yeah.
Brutus.
Everyone thinks the dog in Live a Little, Love a Little was Elvis and Priscilla's dog, but it was not. It was a trained actor dog. It was not just Elvis's dog.
Yeah.
Love it. So
Yep.
if you want to hear some myths broken about Elvis, go on
Myth
Starring
breakers.
Elvis episode.
If you do love Elvis's movie career, we do have, it's the world's largest Elvis museum at Graceland. It's called Elvis the Entertainer Museum. And so you'll see things from all over his career, starting with Sun, going to 68 and Aloha and all that. And you can see a ton of jumpsuits, but there's also an entire section dedicated to the movies. You can see all the movie posters. We have scripts.
Is that in one of the newer exhibits?
In our brand new
'cause I was
plaza.
like, I haven't seen this one.
Yeah, you got to come see it. It's amazing.
Okay.
It is.
And is it a rotating one or it's
No,
permanent?
it's permanent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know that we will probably, we'll add and change things as it goes.
Update.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll probably add a couple of things for the 68 special because, of course, that's the 50th anniversary of that this year.
Right.
But I know if you go to the movie section, you can see all the posters. We have scripts. We have costumes too that you can walk all the way around, just like the jumpsuits. You're not just seeing them in front.
Fun.
And then I know that during Elvis Week, we always have a panel dedicated to Elvis's co-stars. It's
Right.
Conversations on Elvis, with Elvis's co-stars. So if you want to hear some stories, one of my favorites, and I think we may include it in the Trouble with Girls episode coming up, Marlon Mason, one of Elvis's co-stars, last year she shared her famous Elvis zipper story. If you want to hear that, you need to tune in to the Trouble with Girls episode, which we'll be putting out soon. So
Yes.
it's the famous, the famous zipper story. I've heard her tell it a couple of times, and it's always so funny. And she's very charming. I love listening to her telling her Elvis stories. So.
Well, Sheena, Savannah, thank you so much
Thank
for coming
you.
on.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Memphis Type History, the podcast.
We like your type.
You've been listening to Memphis Type History, the podcast. It would mean so much to us if you head over to iTunes and give us a rating and review. Be sure to subscribe and never miss an episode.
Want to be part of Memphis Type History and get behind-the-scenes content, merch, and more? Support us on Patreon at patreon.com/Memphis Type History. That's Patreon, spelled patreon.com/Memphis Type History.
Find more Memphis Type History on our blog at memphistypehistory.com, on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest as Memphis Type History, and on Twitter at Memphis Type.